let's talk about a company that feels like it came out of nowhere to completely upend an industry. I'm talking about Nu Holdings. It's a fintech giant from Latin America that's become one of the biggest digital banking platforms on the planet. But this isn't just another fast growth story. This is a story about some seriously mind-blowing profitability. Okay, let's get into it. First up, let's just try to get our heads around the scale here. Nu isn't some small niche player. We're talking about a company that serves 127 million customers. Think about that. Across Brazil, Mexico, and Colombia, they've captured a massive audience. In Brazil alone, that's something like 60% of the entire adult population. The reach they have is just wow. But here's the number that really makes investors sit up and pay attention: a 31% return on equity. Now, what does that really mean? In simple terms, it's a measure of how good a company is at making money with the money it already has. And let me tell you, a 31% ROE isn't just good for a bank, it is absolutely world-class. It puts them in the same league as the most profitable financial giants out there. So you see these numbers, and it gets you thinking, right? How in the world did a startup, a brand new company, manage to completely overwhelm the old, established banking system of an entire continent? And maybe the more important question for today is this whole thing built to last? Is this incredible success story sustainable? Or are we missing something under the surface? You know, Nu's story didn't start with some super complex algorithm or a fancy new financial product. Nope. Like all the great disruptors, their journey began by solving a huge, really frustrating problem that affected millions and millions of people. So picture this, Brazil, back in 2013. The banking world was basically run by a tiny handful of players. And for regular people, it was awful. You had outrageous fees for basically everything, even just checking your balance. The whole system was built around physical bank branches, endless paperwork, and it really only catered to the rich. Then NuBank walks onto the scene with an idea that was just radically simple: zero fees, a 100% digital experience on an app, and open to absolutely everyone. And that simple idea, well, it just caught fire. I mean, look at this timeline. It's a rocket ship. They start in 2013, and by 2018, they're already a unicorn. Then they go public on the New York Stock Exchange in 2021, and by 2023, they achieve what so many other fintechs only dream of. They become consistently profitable. It is just a masterclass in how to execute a vision. Okay, so the strategy was brilliant, no doubt. But the real secret sauce here, the engine that's driving this complete dominance, is a business model with math that is almost impossible to compete with. Get this. It costs Nu just $7 to get a new customer. 7. How is that even possible? Well, it's because somewhere between 80 and 90% of their growth doesn't come from spending a ton on ads. It comes from word of mouth. People love the product so much that they tell their friends. Their customers are literally their marketing team. And once that customer is on board, it costs Nu just 80 cents a month to run their account. This is the raw power of being digital first. No expensive branches to maintain, no old clunky systems to support. It's just a lean, mean, tech-driven machine. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. That 80-cent cost to serve isn't just low, it's shockingly low when you compare it to the $9 cost for the traditional banks in the area. We're not talking about a small edge here. This is a massive, structural, game-changing advantage in how they operate. So here's the big takeaway. When you combine that super low cost to get a customer with that tiny cost to serve them, you get this magic number. For every single dollar Noob spends to bring in a new person, they expect to make more than $30 back over time. That ratio, over 30 to 1, is basically the holy grail for any business, and it's what's funding their insane growth. Okay, so with an economic engine this powerful, the question isn't really can they survive anymore, it's just how big can they get. But of course, growth is never that simple, and Novi has its own share of pretty significant challenges on the horizon. And this really lays out the two sides of the coin perfectly. On the one hand, you've got some serious headwinds. Operating mostly in Brazil means they're exposed to all sorts of economic swings, inflation, interest rates, you name it. As they lend more, there's credit risk. And of course, competitors are starting to wake up. But on the other hand, the tailwinds are just huge. Tons of room to grow in Mexico and Colombia, new products in the pipeline, and an even bigger plan. And this is a massive signal of that ambition. Nu has officially applied for a U.S. national bank charter. This is them planting a flag. They're signaling their intent to move beyond Latin America and step into the biggest, most profitable financial market on Earth, a $20 trillion arena.
So, do they have the right leadership to handle all these risks and actually seize these opportunities? Well, this quote pretty much says it all. In 2022, the CEO, David Velez, turned down a compensation package worth over $800 million. His reason? He said his own huge ownership stake in the company was all the motivation he needed. I mean, that's an almost unheard of move that just screams integrity and a deep, long-term focus.
All right, let's tie this all together. If you're looking at new holdings as an investment, the whole story really comes down to these three key things. First, you've got a brand that people absolutely love, which fuels this amazing viral growth. Second, an insane structural cost advantage that drives best-in-class profits. And third, a leadership team that's proven, disciplined, and clearly in it for the long haul.
Which leaves us with one final, fascinating question to ponder. Nu has already proven they can conquer the banking world in Latin America. All the pieces seem to be in place, and their ambition is crystal clear. So the only real question left is, can they take that playbook and scale it up to the world stage and truly become a global financial superpower?